Hey traders, hopefully you're having a good Friday and a good start to the weekend. We're going to be just jumping right into it, looking at two main charts for this video. The first one is going to be the Bitcoin dominance chart, and this is the chart that's currently showing. If you don't know, this is the percentage of what Bitcoin is in terms of market cap compared to the rest of the crypto market. So just for example, in January 11th, 2016, Bitcoin was 98.99% of the total cryptocurrency market, and then the basically point 0.1 or sorry the 1% would have been the rest of the cryptocurrencies, basically the altcoins. Added them up all together, and that's your 1% compared to Bitcoin's 99%. So it kind of illustrates where we've come from in terms of Bitcoin dominance. So jumping into how we're going to use the BTC dominance to find points where there could be alt season or points where there's mass speculation in altcoins is looking at the average true range, because basically what we're trying to identify are points where there is massive shifts in volatility to the downside, where we've seen back in history like kind of breaking the current level of support as we can see, and then just a massive dump to the downside. And even within the recent price action, we've seen points where there's mass speculation. Lots of people are entering the altcoin market, especially in very small cap tokens. And this creates an opportunity where if you are looking at the right altcoins, this could make you multiples, not percentages, multiples. And that's where the real money is made. So basically what we're going to be doing in terms of the indicator, we're actually not going to create it in this video, but we are looking for points where the average true range, the ATR, is exponentially moving to the upside. Not a little bit of a push up, but really, really expanding. And this is indicating an expansion in volatility. We can see back in 2017, we will break down the previous bull run as well, but we saw back in 2017 when the ATR started really pushing to the upside, we saw alt season. In short, a lot of altcoins were doing extremely well. Much more appreciation compared to Bitcoin, although you can't say Bitcoin was not a good investment in 2016 to 2017, but there were points where altcoins were appreciating at a much greater rate than the king, Bitcoin. And these are the points we are trying to identify here. So in short, when we're looking at ATR, we want to see expanding ATR, increasing ATR in alt season, in bull markets, and you see shrinking ATR in bear markets and consolidations, which makes sense. If people have more money because BTC is going up, they're going to be putting a little bit of profit back into different smaller cap coins, which then increases the price of those. And because they are a much smaller market cap, it's easier for them to move up initially. Whereas where Bitcoin is at right now, it's a lot harder for it to actually move up in terms of market cap because it takes more capital to move the same percentage. So when we're looking at really Bitcoin, I think it's going to appreciate in terms of compared to in the previous bull runs a little bit less, but it's still going to be a fantastic investment in my personal view. Not financial advice, but just my overall view. And then we saw a drop and a consolidation in the average true range for the entire bear market of 2018 and the consolidation of 2019. And we're now seeing an increase in the average true range for the Bitcoin dominance chart, which is indicating that we are decreasing the market cap of Bitcoin compared to the overall rest of the cryptocurrency market. Excuse me. So we're starting to see its first spike, and kind of same thing back in February of 2017. This is the start of our alt season in my eyes, in my personal view, right? And if we're taking a look, you can't extrapolate what happened in the past and just project it into the future and assume that's going to work. But just comparing the previous market cycles, because there are some cyclical events that do occur within the cryptocurrency market. For example, looking at the Bitcoin capitulation from the hash rate, because when Bitcoin halves, basically all miners' revenue get cut in half because they're able to receive half the amount of Bitcoin for the basically same amount of energy. If the hash rate is somewhat stable and the amount that they are earning for the hash rate is halvening, Bitcoin halvening, right? That's going to reduce their revenue by half. And if their expenses are still going to remain the same, a lot of them are going to go out of business. They need to sell their assets, which is going to be Bitcoin, which is going to be a massive dump in the market. And that's going to be the market minor capitulation that we've been talking about. So there are some cyclical events that do occur in the cryptocurrency market, mainly to do with proof of work. So there is some validity in terms of market cycles, but when we're looking at the previous market cycle, it was around 340, let's say 340 days, give or take, a few weeks or whatever, for the previous alt run, which was from spring or March of 2017 up until the end of 2017, start of 2018. Let's say January, February of 2018 was the end of our alt season when we broke that triangle to the upside. So 343 days. If we're looking at this current alt season, we started it, in my view, in the spring of 2021. And if we're looking and extrapolating what happened in the past, the alt season could potentially end up, there's no guarantee obviously, but like the very early points of 2022 is the speculation that we have just looking at the Bitcoin dominance. And it kind of does make sense. As long as we're seeing the ATR increasing and the Bitcoin dominance moving to the downside, altcoins will be a very favorable place to store capital while it's appreciating at a much greater rate than really anything else the world is seeing right now. So that's going to be my overall perspective on the BTC D chart, the Bitcoin dominance. And like I said, we will be creating an indicator for our PCC, Performance Community Coin holders, so then they're able to understand exactly when alt season is, because this is a really good indication, right? Just figure out when the ATR is rising aggressively, and that's your alt season indicator is basically, and then you got to fine tune what time frame to look at and all that stuff, but it's not too difficult. So when we're looking at the actual chart of Bitcoin, this is the price, this is the previous bull run, and there's going to be some pretty cyclical events that occur year after year that we're going to touch on right now. So at the top of the 2013-2014 top, all of 2014, so let's just do this in order so it makes a lot of sense, all of 2014 was bearish. All of 2015 was consolidation. 2016 was momentum. 2017 was blow off. That's the structure that we're looking at, with the top being the start of the new cycle. Let's just say. Usually it's going to be the halvening. That's, in my view, is what creates the cycles. But just looking at it from an easy to understand perspective, let's say the market tops the cycles. So with this new cycle from the top, 2018 was terrible. 2018 was 2014. 2019 was 2015. 2020 was 2016. And 2021 is 2017. That, in my opinion, is how I'm currently viewing the market, and that's why I'm such a bull right now. Is I do not think that this bull run is over. I think that there is still a lot of potential move to the upside that we could see, especially in a lot of the alts. And this is a really great time to be looking for opportunities to buy your favorite alt that has solid use case. It's practical. It makes sense. It's a logical investment. It's not like it's a random meme coin that some random person made on the BSC very easily with a shit website that you randomly heard about on Reddit. It has to be a little bit more legitimate than that in terms of use case, in terms of adoption, in terms of the potential increase in appreciation. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but hopefully this video has given you a little bit of a taste as to why we think that the overall momentum will continue from a cyclical standpoint, not looking at our indicators or the COT, the commitment of traders, looking at the volume that's occurring within the smart money or the whales, stripping all that aside, just looking at the cyclical patterns that we've seen. In my speculation, I think that we will be continuing a move to the upside. And we're going to finalize and end this video looking at this consolidation right here. This, in my opinion, is going to be the Wyckoff accumulation phase that we're currently seeing, and I will quickly touch on that right now. This is the overall accumulation zone, and I don't believe I have the other photo, so we're going to take a look at this. Let's take a picture and really just go over exactly what we're seeing right now. So this, in my opinion, looks very similar to Bitcoin. So if this was the price of Bitcoin, this is kind of where we are, right around, kind of like here, in the phase C point, the spring test. So if this was Bitcoin, this right here, this key level of resistance is like the 41K resistance, in my view, 40.2, 41K, something like that. The key level of support, I'm sure you are all well aware, is the 30K zone. So that is the ceiling and floor for this accumulation phase in my view, and I'm sure just very simple TA, you can really come to an agreement with that. And then kind of going into what we're seeing right now, we saw a ascending zone. We saw a low after a long a long correction to the downside. This is where we had that ascending wedge, and this is that major move to the downside that we had in the spring there. And from that point, we hit the 30K low initially, and then we created a higher low, For Bitcoin, this created a symmetrical triangle like so, and then we saw a move to the downside and the first attempt from the bears to break this 30K zone, because this is where the buyers are currently at the 30K zone, and this was the first attempt number 1 to break this key level of support. We held. Great to see. From that first move down, that first attempt by the bears, the bulls reacted very positively, bringing the price all the way up to the key level of resistance at around 41K. In this case, it's just, obviously, there's no price, but the key level of resistance, right? And then after that point, a lot of, not optimism, but there's more optimism in the air. You saw a move all the way back to the support. This is going to basically exhaust any buyers that are not patient, that thought is going to go up. Their hopes and dreams are all broken because they thought that this was going to be the recovery of their lifetime because they've leveraged here. Basically, in short, anyone who is not in it for the long run are going to get shaken out. From this spring test, I think that's kind of where we are right now, is we've just completed the spring test. So that move down, move all the way down. This is that spring test, and we'll look at that within the price action of Bitcoin. And we are currently, in my opinion, right around here. And why I think that, after the spring test, after the major low, you're seeing a nice ascending zone and then a pullback. When you're looking at it from a price action standpoint, this move up right here is the ascending zone that we got, and then it's the attempt to push down. But this higher low is higher than the low from the bottom of the ascending wedge, so it is creating a higher low. It's failing to actually break to the downside. You can also, there's a series of higher lows here, so this was kind of a squeeze, but there is a structure that is pushing the price back down, in short, because this was our bounce, and it's attempting to push down, but it's unable to actually reach that low. So it's creating a higher low from the previous low. That's currently what we're seeing right now in my view. And I think that we're on track to have a recovery, and then we're going to start to really see the push up. This is the 36K zone. So if we're looking at the midpoint for the Bitcoin accumulation area, it's around 36K, 36.5, 36.2, somewhere around there. And that is currently where we are. So when we're taking a look at the actual price action of Bitcoin, right here, let's change that. We could then look at what we saw right here and understand that it does look very, very similar. So this is that ascending zone. And this is the smackdown to the 30K, and this is the 41K right here. So this is that major consolidation area right there. It hit the 30K level right here, and then like we talked about within the structure, right, we got our nice squeeze right here. So this was our initial squeeze, which was right there. And this is the first attempt to push to the downside. This was the second attempt. Sorry, I didn't say that initially. But this is the first attempt by the bears to push to the downside. It got rejected right at the 30K zone, and then we picked it all the way back up to the key level of resistance we can see right here. So from the support all the way to the resistance, very gracefully moving to the upside. At that resistance, lots of hope, lots of optimism. People are thinking it's going to break this key zone, and it's a full recovery. We get kind of a decimation for the people who are not in it for the long run to be shaken out. And then we get the final shakeout. This is the spring support, or the spring test. Hopefully everyone remembers from the description there. And this is the final spring test. And in my opinion, this is the point where we should be seeing a series of higher highs and higher lows. So what we're seeing right now is an initial recovery where this is the ascending zone. You could draw it like that, a little bit more of an ascending zone. And we saw a break right here, and the initial push down, this was the attempt by the bears. So this is attempt number 1. I'm not going to draw the number 1. But this is the attempt number 1 right here. This is the attempt number 2. And this is the attempt number 3. So it's getting rejected. Buyers coming in, buyers coming in, buyers coming in each time. And next you could argue that, wow, sellers are really strong. They're pushing it down each time, but the buyers are holding it. The buyers are picking up. The buyers are not letting out. So in my opinion, it's an attempt by the sellers to push each time down, and they're getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And this is the spring test that is the final low for the sellers and the key level of support for the buyers, which then is creating the last attempt, super weak attempt by the sellers, not even breaking it down. And then the wind up for the next push up is coming in right here, where you're seeing a nice kind of low hanging higher low, because this is the low, higher low, higher low. So you're seeing that one strong push, pull back to make that higher low, and that next push is coming in. This is that 36K zone that we just talked about in the schematic for the accumulation zone there. So hopefully that gives you a good understanding. And then once we break the 36K zone right here, the midpoint, and you got that nice squeeze right here, I think we're going to be seeing a consolidation above the 36K zone. We're going to be getting into the 42K zone. And once we're above this key level of resistance, I think it's going to be looking very, very optimal for BTC to continue to the upside. So that's really my viewpoint on Bitcoin, looking at just 2 different charts. We looked at the price of Bitcoin, both from a long-term and kind of shorter time frame, and we looked at the Bitcoin dominance. We do have other tools that allow us to get a little bit more insight, but in short, that was a really, in my opinion, simple explanation, a logical explanation as to why we think the overall BTC crypto bull run will continue. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully it was educational, informative, entertaining. If you do enjoy these videos, we are slowly getting more consistency with our views, which is fantastic. If you think that there's something that we could add that would benefit the channel, that the viewer would benefit from, if there's more value added, we're definitely open to suggestions. We're really open-minded, so we'd love to hear any suggestions or thoughts on what the viewer would like to make it more of an impactful video. So thank you again for tuning in. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe if you want more videos like this, and until next time, have a good one, traders.